is Sarah Stallnaker. Sarah, thanks for joining us and agreeing to play something for us a little bit later.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
I'm a classically trained cellist, so I grew up playing from the age of 7, then went to conservatory for 4 years in Ohio, then did my grad degree in Texas, and then ended up finding my way out here for my work. New England is a good place for classical musicians. So,
you said it's better than other parts of the country? That's the reputation we have?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, did you start out playing the cello, or did you dabble in other stringed instruments?
I come from a musical family, so they threw various instruments at me until one stuck. I started on piano and violin, and I think the first time I saw a kid playing cello, I ended up flipping my violin upside down and playing it like a cello until,
really,
of course.
Wow. Is the rest of the family into classical music?
My father is a French horn player. He played in the organ symphony for many, many years when I was growing up. And my mother is a pianist, but ended up going into education later on.
So where are you playing these days?
Well, I'm playing with a woman named Judy Stillman down in Providence tomorrow for a couple concerts.
Oh.
I'm doing a concert down at the Ricity Museum in the Grand Gallery next week, the Strauss Sonata, so that's with a pianist. So I'm sort of doing a variety of projects and have my fingers sort of stuck in a variety of places, but it's been a fun sort of experiment the last couple of years.
Have you been in with big, large symphony orchestras? Have you played with them?
When I first came out here, I was in the New Haven. That was what the New Haven Symphony Orchestra is. What got me to New England.
Oh.
And I also was a very a big part of a beginning initiative in Providence called Community Music Works, which is a string quartet residency in an inner city neighborhood. It's sort of like a string quartet in a university setting.
Yeah.
They perform, they teach. In our case, we performed around the neighborhood and around the state, but we taught students in the neighborhood, and it's a nonprofit. They're free lessons. We did a lot of fundraising, and so it was a string quartet, which is 2 violins, viola, cello. I'm sure everyone's familiar with that arrangement, and it's chamber music. So I started when I was 24 playing in the Providence String Quartet, and that was really my formative sort of career moment as a chamber musician versus an orchestral musician. But the orchestra jobs are great and fun, and it's great to sort of be a part of a big community. Larry Ratcliffe is a conductor at the Rhode Island Philharmonic, and he was also my conductor when I was down for my grad degree at Rice University.
Oh, wow.
So I sort of folded into that fairly quickly, and I have many, many close friends in that orchestra still, and hope to rejoin someday when my daughter's a little older.
So do you have any CDs out, or either with that chamber orchestra or?
The string quartet, Providence String Quartet, has some CDs that we made. My grandfather is a composer, and I did a solo selection of one of his compositions that's out. Still working on the recording side of things.
That's amazing. Now, do you said you classically train, so is that primarily, if people come to see you, are you doing classical music, or have you tried to branch out or push your music to different areas?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the classical chamber music is in my blood. However, lately I have been sort of have the time now to explore different genres. I stopped the full-time work down in Providence, so I'm still playing classical concerts. But in my practice room, I'm playing around with doing a variety of other genres, and some of them are more successful than others. It's sort of interesting to see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Now, as a child growing up in a musical family, it seems like music was just in your blood. But do you have like any advice for introducing instruments to your children? Or, because I mean, I come from a background where I was a band geek in high school and stuff, and I just think music is great. But sometimes with the kids, it's so hard. You're competing against so many different, other
Things that occupy
activities.
their time, sure.
Yeah. Well, I taught for so long that trying to get kids these days to stop and struggle with an instrument long enough to learn it versus all the other things that will perform with one push of a button.
Yeah.
That's been hard. And one of the things that I always told my students' parents, and now I tell myself because my daughter is now learning to play the cello, is that the routine of habit, the only way that you can get this happening, because it's not easy. It's not something the kids will want to do because you have to struggle. It's a great sort of way to teach grit in young students, and yet a really difficult part as a parent is to keep that regularity so that they don't notice how hard it is. As we know, like you exercise for a month straight, everything's fine, you stop for 4 days, and then it's really hard. Well, it's the same thing with an instrument. Anything that pushes you like that, if you just get that, even if it's just 5 minutes, if you get that every day, it becomes sort of routine, and then they get good, they start enjoying it, and the ball gets rolling. But in the beginning years, there's not a lot that comes back. My daughter had a soccer game after her very first practice ever, and in our sort of line, you'd teach a kid for like 2 years, have them practice before they have their first performance. And part of me doesn't like that. I think that we're such perfectionists in this field to just get them out there. But at the same time, there is so much skill just to make a clean sound before you even start.
Oh yeah, I was going to say
song.
those first few practices I think are hard on the parents too, a little bit, not just the kids.
Yeah,
but.
it's very true. I've heard that many times.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us. And in a few minutes, we are going to let you set up, and then we will hear you play.
Great, thanks.
All right, thank you.